Hi, I'm Lance Henriksen. You're watching Bryan Lomax Movie Talk. Don't turn it off.
Hello there, welcome to Bryan Lomax Movie Talk and another Terminator review. This time it's Terminator Salvation, the fourth film in the franchise. It kind of follows on from Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, but does an awful lot to distance itself from that film, not least of which in tone and style. So yes, this one takes place in the future, in the war-ravaged kind of decimated world of Skynet having wiped it out in a military strike using nuclear weapons. We're following John Connor. We're following this new character played by Sam Worthington called Marcus Wright. Just before the bombs fell, basically he was on death row and he was asked to donate his body to science, to genetic science, and then flash forward to the future. He wakes up from out of a pit and doesn't know what he's doing there, doesn't know what's happened, what's going on with the future, what's going on with the world around him. He bumps into Kyle Reese, rather coincidentally it must be said, and then it's about their journey and where it's going to take them. Considering this film is directed by McG, who did the Charlie's Angels movies, I think it looks incredible. I think a lot of people have dismissed it, saying it looks quite dark and grimy, but for the world that it exists in, I think it's perfect. Yes, I like the visual aesthetics in this film. I think McG does a really good job directing it. I like some of the creations we see, the T-600s with their kind of dodgy face bits on that clearly haven't been developed yet. They're not up to T-800 level. I like most of the cast. I think Anton Yelchin is good as Kyle Reese. I like Sam Worthington. I always have. I've said this before. I think the dude is underrated. No, I don't think he's the best actor in the world ever, but I do think he carries himself pretty well in films like this, and he does a pretty good job in this role as this character. I also like Christian Bale as John Connor. I think he's a good choice. He's a good fit for the character. And I like the dynamic between him and Marcus Wright when they eventually kind of get together. They don't have many scenes together, it must be said, but I like the way their worlds kind of collide and the way they're pulled in different directions as a result of each other. I like that we get to see how John Connor kind of earns the name of leader and savior and all that kind of stuff. When I first saw this film, I want to get into a couple of beefs that I had with it, which have actually been kind of cleared up this time around when watching it. Towards the end, we have this whole sequence where we find out what Marcus Wright is, who he is, what the intention behind him is. So Skynet, spoilers by the way, Skynet basically took him from the program that we find him going into at the beginning, and they used that to enhance him. So what we got to bear in mind here is that Marcus isn't a robot who's been made to look human. He's a human who's been modified into a robot. So it's still his brain, it's still his heart, and because of that reason, Skynet doesn't have control of him in the way it would with a T-800. He's essentially an infiltrator. Skynet is using his humanity it's counting on his humanity to lure Reese and John Connor into Skynet. So when Reese ends up at Skynet, I was always like, dude, that's Kyle Reese. Just kill him and you're done. You've got him there. Just kill him. But obviously they want to kill John Connor as well. It's not enough just to kill Kyle Reese at this point. John Connor is already there. They don't know that killing Kyle Reese at this point will wipe him out of the timeline because, I don't know, whatever time thing nonsense you could come up with. But I think it could have done with a little bit of dialogue in there, just to ascertain that Skynet didn't want to take any chances. That, you know, because John Connor and Kyle Reese existed within the same moment, would killing Reese at that point get rid of John, or would it not? I think a bit of uncertainty on Skynet's part would justify that not killing Reese straight away. This time around, I saw that actually they need Kyle Reese because Marcus Wright is only going to call John Connor into Skynet once he has confirmed that Kyle Reese is there. So he needs visual confirmation of Kyle Reese in his cell before he calls John Connor in. And the moment he gives that confirmation and John Connor comes in, they send a Terminator to kill Kyle Reese as well as John Connor. It's a bit convoluted. It's still kind of flawed because there is that notion that, well, hang on a minute, if you kill Kyle Reese there, wouldn't it wipe out John Connor from the timeline anyway? But I'm going to assume that that Skynet was making no assumptions and needed both of them to wipe them both out at the same time to make sure. So for me, that doesn't bother me anymore. I'm not, and this film was a lot better as a result. Like I say, I don't know why this time around that became clear to me, and it never did before, but this time around it did. It became clear to me. So yeah, the film went up a notch in my mind. And like I say, I've always liked the style of it. I've always liked the tone. I've always liked the setting. I've always wanted to see a film in the Terminator universe set within that particular time frame, you know, once Skynet's kind of taken over the war basically against the machines. We get glimpses of it in Cameron's films that really just, yeah, always enticed me. I really wanted to see his version of it. And this is as close as we get. The biggest downside for me is that we once again get these stupid T-800s who aren't the most efficient killing machines on the planet that they were in the first two movies. You know, this is a bit of a carryover from the third film, in which we need to prolong an action sequence, but once our Terminator has reached his target, we can't just have him kill them. So what we're going to do, we'll throw them across the room, because that's such an efficient way of killing someone when you have the power to crush their head in your hand. So we get that again towards the end of the film. We get it. There's a little sequence as well at the beginning when I think it's a T-600 because it looks pretty big. Kind of comes at John Connor. So John Connor's come down in a helicopter and he's been shot down in a helicopter. And then this T-600 appears from behind him and he has a bit of a tussle with it and shoots it out. But again, the Terminator grabs him and throws him against the side of the helicopter, when in actual fact it could grab him on the head and crush his head like a melon. So I never understand this completely inefficient mindset of these Terminators that are supposedly the most efficient killing machines. I like the character stuff in this. This time around I got into it more. And I don't know if it's because there's been such a distance between when the film came out and now. Because I remember when the film came out, a lot of it for me, it didn't work because we'd seen so much of it in the trailer. Like literally, it had one of the worst trailers ever that I've seen for a film because it gave everything away. So the film plays as a mystery, mostly about who is Marcus Wright. What is he all about? Why is he away? Why is he been kept secret? Why has he been down this hole? What's going on? So when it's revealed that he's a Terminator, in the trailer, you've literally gotten rid of the mystery of the film, the core mystery. And I would imagine, because obviously different people kind of make the trailers to the filmmakers, I would imagine McG would have been quite brassed off by that element being included in the trailer. But I know I was when I originally saw it. And like I say, I think it takes quite a lot of the emotional beats out of the story, seeing as much as they put in those trailers. But again, having that distance now, watching this with fresh eyes, I actually became quite involved in some of the character stuff. Moon Bloodgood, which is quite a bizarre name. I can't remember the name of her character in this, but Blair, I think it is. I like the relationship she develops with Marcus, and you know, the fact that she sees the humanity in him and not not the android. And there is that whole thing there about what it is that makes us human. Is it the choices we make? And there is that sense that with Marcus, yes, he's mostly machine, but he's still got that willpower. He's still got the ability to sacrifice himself out of love, not out of programming, which separates him from the machines. I think that Danny Elfman's score is a bit of a weak spot as well. He does play on the original Terminator theme. He kind of reworks that original Terminator theme into the score, but he changes it up a bit. He kind of changes a few notes so it becomes a little less recognisable. I prefer the original score and the way it was done in the second film. I feel like his score in this one is a little bit generic. I've really enjoyed a lot of Danny Elfman's scores, but yeah, this one a little bit generic. I love the world in general that's been built here. It's very Mad Max-esque, but a lot more futuristic. It's like Blade Runner, really. Blade Runner meets Mad Max. When we go to Skynet, that is definitely Blade Runner-esque. And then when we're out on the road with the hunter killers and things chasing after people, that's definitely more Mad Max, particularly when the motorbike Terminators come into it. I love all the different designs we get here. I do think that the plot, again, like I say, it suffers because of coincidental things that happen. So, Skynet sent Marcus out. The whole purpose of him is to lure Kyle Reese and John Connor back to Skynet. I find it a little bit too convenient, way too convenient, that the first person he comes across essentially is Kyle Reese. It's like convenient, it's going back to those conveniences or contrivances of the third film. So I don't know if it was just coming straight off the back of the abomination that is Rise of the Machines, but I really enjoyed Terminator Salvation. As I say, I've pointed out flaws. It's not perfect, but I really enjoyed it, mostly because of the world, mostly because of these characters, and yeah, I like what McG did with the action sequences. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Like I say, it's not perfect, but I enjoy it. It's a good watch. It's a solid Terminator film, particularly the first 2/3 of it. At any rate, I was just really involved all the way through, and I think it does lose something in the last act, mainly because of things just not being entirely clear. You really have to pay attention to kind of piece things together in a way that make a bit more sense. So I think a bit more work could have been done in the script writing department to clear certain things up, and also fill in a few holes throughout. But beyond that, it's probably as good as we're going to get as far as Terminator movies go that don't have James Cameron writing and directing them. So yeah, I had a blast with it this time around. I've always enjoyed it in the past, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Yeah, so that's my review of Terminator Salvation. But what do you think about this film? Do you like it? Do you think it's just as bad as the third one, if not worse? Please leave your comments below. Thank you for watching this review, and until next time, cracking.